Hello, my name is Father Lawrence Jagdfeld. I am a Franciscan friar of the Sacred Heart Province and the administrator of CUSA, an apostolate of persons with chronic illness and/or disability. Passion Sunday, the Sunday before our celebration of the resurrection. And as has been said by many a preacher, we cannot get to the resurrection unless we go through the cross. And so this Sunday we will spend a good bit of time with the Scriptures as we read the central narrative of St. Luke's Gospel. The Passion narrative is the core of each of the Gospels. And in many respects, each evangelist records the events similarly. We hear some of the same things over and over again. Part of this is because the evangelist used the responsorial psalm that we are so familiar with on Palm Sunday, on Passion Sunday. The responsorial psalm that comes to us from the Old Testament and is, in fact, a psalm about passion, about a person who is beset by his enemies. A psalm that speaks about asking God for help, wonders whether God has abandoned him, speaks of bulls, lions, dogs, and all sorts of other people who are thirsty for his blood. Psalm 22. My God, why have you abandoned me? In fact, these words are the very words that we hear on the lips of Jesus in the Gospels of Matthew and Mark. However, this Sunday, this Passion Sunday, in the C cycle of the lectionary, we read from St. Luke. And his focus is entirely different. And it is those differences of which I would like to speak today. Now, as I'm sure you are aware, the Passion is a very long reading. And so I'm not going to read the entire Passion. I'm just going to focus on those things that make St. Luke's telling of this story different. And the first thing that is different about St. Luke's telling is that Jesus is not abandoned. The disciples do not run off. Rather, they are, according to him, standing at a distance, but they are there at Golgotha, on Calvary, at the foot of the cross. None of them is named, none of them speak, but Luke tells us that his disciples and some women that had followed Jesus are there. A second difference. St. Luke tells us that Jesus says from the cross, "Father, forgive them. They know not what they do." St. Luke sees the Passion as an occasion of forgiveness, an occasion of reconciliation. Something that is highlighted by the inclusion of Herod in this particular story. St. Luke is the only one of the evangelists that speaks of Jesus visiting the court of Herod during the Passion. And he ends that story by telling us that Herod didn't get any satisfaction from Jesus, but that from that point on, he and Pilate were friends. That the enmity that existed between these two people was healed by Jesus' Passion. Another thing that Jesus says in this particular gospel has to do with his response to those who are crucified with him. One of the thieves that is crucified upbraids Jesus and asks Jesus not only to save himself, but to save them as well. In the Gospels of Matthew and Mark, both thieves ask this of Jesus. But in St. Luke's telling of the story, one of the thieves, which we have come to call the good thief, tells his partner, "Don't you fear God? This man has done nothing wrong, while we have been condemned justly." And then he turns to Jesus and says, "Master, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus' response to him, recorded for all time, is, "Today you will be with me in paradise." Another example of how Jesus' death brings about forgiveness. This takes us right back to the beginning of the gospel. We remember that Jesus, while he was in the synagogue of Capernaum, read from the scroll of Isaiah that the Spirit of the Lord had come upon him and had anointed him to preach good news to the poor and release to captives. This is the only time in the gospel that Jesus does release a captive. When Jesus is at his weakest, when he is at his most vulnerable point, he reaches out to the man and grants him forgiveness. Again, the very soul of compassion. Finally, St. Luke records that before Jesus expires, he says, "Father, into your hands I commend my spirit." There's no crying out. There's no expressions of pain. Simply a very quiet handing over of his spirit to the Father who sent him in the first place. St. Luke records that before he said these words, the temple veil was split in two. Interestingly, the other Gospels place that event after Jesus' death. But in St. Luke's telling, once Jesus has died, nothing happens that is negative. Only positive things happen once Jesus has died. Again, Luke is making the point that Jesus' death and his passion have brought about forgiveness, mercy, and compassion. As we listen to this particular rendering of this story, we cannot help but be impressed with all of the different nuanced ways that St. Luke makes us aware of the fact that Jesus is the embodiment of forgiveness. And as we celebrate this Passion Sunday, we remember that this forgiveness is extended to us as well. We rejoice in that, and then we journey on to Easter, which we will celebrate at the end of this most holy week. For more information about CUSA, please visit our website at www.qson.org.